I'll let
Just
Keith
come off a
settle.
mountain? Dude, did you just come off a mountain?
I just came from home.
Oh, wow.
Keith's always prepared.
Hiking the Himalayas or
He's always
something, man.
always prepared for any eventuality.
What do I do about the deer in my backyard
I don't know, just shoot them.
On the hill.
Really?
Crossbow.
Talk to Ruth about.
They're all
You want to
over.
talk deer, talk about the other side of the
That's a
river.
great idea.
Anyways, all right, I'm
That's so
gonna,
crazy.
now that we got quorum, I'm
Make
gonna.
sure it's
I'm
a
gonna-
kill shot. Don't let them run into your neighbor's
I'm
yard.
gonna get us started here.
Okay, enough.
We're not missing, are we missing anybody out? We have everybody?
No.
Full vote? We're all here? Full vote. All right, good. All right. I would like to call to order the City of Saugatuck Parks and Public Works Committee meeting for November 22nd. Ryan, would you mind calling the roll?
Absolutely, Mr. Chairman. Brock.
Here.
Roche.
Here,
Kimball.
here,
Johnson.
yep, here.
DeYoung.
Here.
Chairman Dean.
Thank you. We have quorum. So that will take us to number 3, approval of the agenda. Can I have a motion and a second to approve the agenda?
Motion.
Motion.
Second.
All right, motion DeYoung, second by
second.
Roche. Voice vote, all in favor, say aye.
Aye.
No, none opposed. Agenda is approved. Item 4, approval of minutes from October 25th. Also a motion and a second, please.
Move.
Motion
To
Kimball.
approve.
And
A second.
and a second Johnson. All in favor, say aye. All opposed, say nay. Aye. No nays. Motion carries. That takes us to item 5. This is our public comment period of the meeting. So if it is related to the agenda that we're going to discuss, please raise your hand and come forward and state your name and address. If it's something other than an agenda item, we will have public comment in item 8. So I hate to ask you to wait. But that's sort of the way we normally do this. So apologies for that. I don't know if we can.
Well, Mr. Chair, I do believe you have Village Square Park on your agenda, and I think we have one guest who'd like to speak to
Excellent.
Pickleball courts, I believe, so. you can-
Excellent. Then you can take advantage of public comment early if you like, sir. Yeah,
Yeah.
please, just for the benefit of folks online, if you could just state your name and address.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Yeah, Tom LaFave. I live in Caledonia, Michigan, and I've had a boat here in your lovely town for 12 years. And so the reason I came here today was there's probably about 8 or 10 of us that love to play pickleball, and we love to do it in this little downtown court. Even though Shoals Park in Douglas has far better courts, what have you, this is just a 5-minute walk from our marina. And we've met a lot of people in town that, obviously play there too. Give you a little background. 2 years ago, I took it upon myself to get a paint kit and took some blue paint and a roller kit and some tape. And I did the lines on the court because the old ones you couldn't really see very well. And so we play every Friday, Saturday, Sunday, about 8 or 10 of us, and sometimes in the middle of the week on Wednesday. But, the challenge with that court is there's cracks. The net really doesn't work. The poles are, both poles are bending inside. And so the lower part of the net, I made some sticks at home, cut them, zip tied them to the net. Those lasted for a few weeks. A lot of times people see us because we're scrambling in the bushes to find sticks, to hold up the nets. The ones with forks on the top are really good because you can put those right in the net. And we bring a measuring tape. I keep a measuring tape in my bag so that we kind of get the net close to where it's going to be. So, on our short list, we would just hope that, maybe you could get a resurface or something on that court, and maybe a new net with poles that would, make it look a little better. So, yeah, it's just aesthetically, it's not, I look across the park there, that's a beautiful playground, and the other side, I think that whole area could actually use a nice facelift, I guess, is what I'm saying. So, yeah, but yeah, long and short of it, that's it. We just love playing, in our town, in our little town here, and enjoy it very much.
Great. Thank you.
Yeah,
Thank you,
okay,
sir.
thank you.
Anyone else like to make comment on agenda items only? We have a few visitors online. I don't see any hands up. Gary, if you, Mr. Medler, if there was anything on the agenda you wanted to address, feel free. There you are. Gary, if you had anything on the agenda you wanted,
Muted, Mr.
Okay.
Medler.
You muted.
Muted, Mr. Medler. Mr. Medler, you're muted. Okay.
Gary, oh, there you are, Gary.
Okay.
Did you
Yeah.
have a comment for anything on the agenda, sir?
No, I'm just all in favor of this. I'm just participating.
Thank you.
Cool.
All right, well, then I think that, without further ado, closes the first public comment period. And that takes us to item 6, review and discussion. Item A is Department of Public Works and Administrative updates.
RC, if, do you have the PowerPoint presentation that you can bring up? It's pretty light PowerPoint presentation, but Mr. LaFave, this explains a couple of things. One, a police report that we received about a man running in the woods around the pickleball court. That was you? Okay. And then also why the lines are so crooked. You painted those yourself. Yeah, okay. Check those off. All right, makes sense now. All right. Mr. Chair, this is your agenda. You're working through it already. So we do have some updates from your Department of Public Works. If you go next slide, Mr. RC. You know what, I'll lead in. As we get into some of the projects, today, the focus is gonna be putting some study groups together. I'll talk about that a little bit more. But I do want to mention that there are a couple projects that we have we would call a private-public partnership that will be a catalyst to move these projects much more faster,
Mhm.
much more quickly.
I like that, yeah.
Yeah, thanks. One of which would be AT&T working with us at Mount Baldhead. So they have to get some infrastructure up to the Baldhead itself. And they're willing to work with the city to put infrastructure at the base of the hill. So we're talking the potential of new restrooms and then them putting in some facilities for their infrastructure and then running conduit and cable up the stairs themselves, which also need to be replaced in the very near future. And so they would be a partner potentially on that whole project. So that's just one seed that I want to plant as it relates to Mount Baldhead. The other one is Consumers Energy is looking at putting in some infrastructure with electric at the airport property. And that actually has some huge potential in my mind as far as possibly doing a solar project, working with them for community solar, and then also electrical infrastructure for facilities. Who knows what's going to happen out there? So it could mean anything from attainable housing to creating a facility for recreation. So lots of potential there. So two groups, AT&T and Consumers, that are willing to work with the city of Saugatuck to move some projects, much more quickly.
And just to build on, may I build on what you said?
Please
Yeah.
do.
It's quite exciting on the AT&T front. You know, obviously they've identified the difficulty of getting up to the top of Mount Baldhead to service their equipment. So it could be very exciting if they're willing to actually put up the money for a structure that could be both a new bathroom and their basically utility cabinet for, the equipment that they use that connects to the antennas up in the dome. And so obviously it would probably at some point come back to this committee to give some ideas on aesthetics. I mean, I think all of us want to make sure that it is in character with the park.
Yeah.
And so, if we can, if they're willing to do something that, is actually like brick, like the old pump house, that could be quite amazing if they're willing to do that. And I don't know what their engineers feel about the stairs, but
Yeah, I'm wondering if they would help with that.
exactly.
They seem to be willing to help with
Yeah.
that.
That
Which
seems like a
is-
heavy cost,
Yeah.
isn't it?
It is a big cost.
It may be interesting though, that given, a company like AT&T, has fairly robust employee safety regulations. So they may actually want to participate in helping us improve
Yeah.
the stairs as well. So I think let's keep that discussion live. You know, I think obviously they're doing the community, the tri-community area a big favor by improving our bandwidth, because I fully believe it will not only benefit us, but the township in Douglas.
Oh, yeah.
So I think if we keep that dialogue going, I think it could be quite exciting to get like actually a nice piece of infrastructure over there in terms of a working bathroom, which is a top priority. Just a couple observations on the consumers visit. They were initially very interested in a corner of the old airport property. Scott and Ryan wisely suggested they take a look at an old landfill that the city has. If any of you are familiar where the dog park is, at the end of that cul-de-sac, the city actually has a capped landfill. And we spent a fair amount of time with them looking at it and discussing the possibility of their substation going near there. One of their engineers, I think, was somewhat intrigued with it because it was closer to some of the other power infrastructure that they already have. And it might even have allowed them to do, I think, a higher voltage or something. I can't remember exactly, but they seemed willing to look at it. And the ability for us someday to put a ballasted, and that was a new term I learned from Ryan, a ballasted solar array. So you don't have to pierce the landfill, but you could basically weight it down and anchor it with gravel, I guess.
Big stones.
Big stones and gravel. Suddenly that, keeps the airport property free for some of the bigger things we want to do, what we're thinking about doing, like the trails around the perimeter, the cross-country course, the possibility of sports fields. The substation doesn't take a ton of room. It's like a 400 by 400, I believe,
Right.
but still, depending where it goes, it could impact, kind of some of the visioning we're thinking about around the airport property. So two really exciting things. They're moving, I think, fairly quickly because we've got private sector interest in putting some money into these things. So
How big is the landfill? How many acres?
Scott might know.
It's approximately 30 acres.
Yeah, it's right by the highway, right at that cul-de-sac where the old dog, or
And-
not the old dog, the dog.
So the
park is.
city owns, in addition to the airport, 30 acres.
Mhm. Yeah, we do, a separate parcel.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it seemed better location, as Scott mentioned, Scott Dean, in that it's next to the highway. Right? And so it's not like super valuable
Desired,
property,
yeah.
desired
Mhm.
property in any way. And again, consumers did seem very open to the idea. They were having a debate amongst themselves about the electrical kind of engineering part of it, just
Yeah.
as far as where their substation goes and how many customers they have to service. But they seem very open and willing to work with the city on that. So that would be great if we can get it over to the
And-
highway.
Yeah, and our homework was to also suggest to them, in the event that the landfill was not a workable location for the substation, to propose to them a couple areas within the airport property that would work with sort of our, more holistically with our vision for the property, so. But yeah, these are two really cool things that could happen fairly quickly, so just any questions or
I have
thoughts?
a question, just-
Please. Yeah.
Isn't Verizon also doing something up there on Mount Baldhead?
No, Verizon is completed and they should be kicking it off if.
So they didn't have this issue of.
I think it's,
wanting to-
actually, I think it's on.
Really?
I think
That's
it's on.
fun.
I've never had like full service in town.
That's exciting.
I think they turned it on. No, Verizon did three, they're called small cell technologies. There's one by the high school, there's one over on Lower Spear, and there's one right by Morrow's. And I think they may have been activated, because I've never seen 5 bars on my phone before in this town. So
Yeah, it's
maybe,
supposed to happen by now, yeah.
Yeah,
So
yeah.
that's, yeah.
How
So-
old is the landfill?
Scott, any idea on the landfill's vintage?
Is that,
Please.
Hi, my name is Ken Butler. I met Ryan last year. I'm kind of the one who's brought the news to Ryan that they owned a closed dump site. The EPA, got a report from the EPA. I forwarded to Scott last year. The dump was closed, I believe, in 1984. So it's been 25 years since anybody, it's been more than 25 years since there was any dumping there. They put a sand and clay and sand cap on it. You have 30 to 40 PVC vents.
Yes.
And I'm originally from New Baltimore, and we capped a dump over there, and that was the big question. Could we use that site? Was it safe? So we had our dump site tested, and we just put a clay cap, and we turned that into a really cool sledding hill.
Nice.
That you cut the grass in the summer, and that's all you have to do. The kids take care of the rest.
Is it mounted over there?
Pardon me?
Is that, is our,
Yeah, it's a mounded.
It's a
one.
big mound.
Yeah,
It's, this would be like 4 times larger than anything New Baltimore had. It would be just a killer slope. Now, can you combine sledding with solar? Cool in concept. So then the other thing is nobody from the DEQ or Eagle or EPA has any records of any testing of those vents. Now that means one of two things. Either they tested it for a number of years, they came back negative, so they quit doing it, which is why you quit seeing a bill on how much it costs to get tested, and it fell by the wayside. Or somebody stopped testing it and it's still a problem, and probably both Saugatuck Township and the city would probably want to know that, is this still a dangerous site? I don't think so, but it's all in the testing.
If I may, if there's anything you can add on the history of it, because this is exactly what came up with our discussion with the reps from consumers. They wanted to know if there was any data, if there was any groundwater monitoring, any VOC sort of analysis, because they had exactly that question. If there was contamination, how that would complicate their ability to put a substation in.
So what
if you have
what
anything.
they told me was, I spoke to a lady from the EPA who, from when I called, got back to me unbelievably quickly for the federal government. It was technically called the Exit 41 landfill. It was capped and seeded in fall of 1984, 9 inches of sand, 15 inches of clay, and 4 inches of sand. There were 40 gas vents, and that was done by Dell Engineering in 1985. Now, I do have a note about zinc being over there. But I have registration and parcel number. But this is not on the state's radar at all as a toxic waste site. The EPA closed its file in 1985. And the really cool thing is that if you look at the airport property, the dog park, and this dump site, that's all in that master trail if we want to get from New Richmond Bridge
Right.
across.
Would you be able to share your research electronically with city staff?
I already
So,
sent the.
you've got it.
report to
Yeah.
Oh,
Ryan.
wonderful,
I do have
wonderful.
that.
Perfect.
Yep, and then also, thank you for that
Yep.
information.
Yeah.
Also conversations with Allegan County and what they know about the site as well. If consumers just decide to put their station there, they're gonna want to do their own environmental assessment, which is great. So,
What kind of area does a substation take?
there, you had mentioned.
They generally like a 400 by 400
400 by
foot
400?
area. And it's not all equipment that they do like a buffer, and then they have requirements
Right.
of the distance of trees, so if a tree doesn't fall on, wires and stuff,
substation.
so. But that's generally what they asked us to look at, 400 by 400 foot
Got it.
squares,
Okay.
basically.
Yeah, it was a great group from consumers. They seem pretty motivated, so.
That's really good.
The whole point of this slide is to say that because that we have a private, quote unquote, private partner with these projects, these can accelerate
Yeah.
much more quickly.
Yeah, sorry, and I didn't mean to take too much time on that.
No, it's good. That was good
No.
intel. Thank you.
Ryan, real quick, when you say accelerate, in what way do you mean that they want to we need to decide on the land that could be used for the substation? Or we need to move forward with sort of architecting what we want for the entire space to make sure that it all fits together? So
First would
what are
be, so separate these two. So for the Mount Bald Head project, they want to have their infrastructure in place for next summer, which is
Yeah.
highly ambitious. But with that, that would be a triggering event for, again, new facilities at the base of the Mount Bald Head. It's not that we'd be able to vision everything for the Mount Bald Head Park area, but, you know, just to get a nicely placed restroom, new steps.
We have to have a conceptual plan of the layout.
Yeah, we need to know.
Yeah.
Yep.
the whole
and
picture
And so
versus-
we, yeah, I think I shared some slides at the previous meeting of like some conceptual plans that the city had worked on before as far as the layout. But we don't want to have, we don't want to have facilities placed where they're going to interfere with kind of our overall vision. So we're
Right.
trying to be
That's our
very
concern.
strategic
Yeah.
about that. And that, so that's AT&T. But they're motivated, they're willing to partner with us. I think we take advantage of that, in my opinion. And then consumers, likewise, they want to get their substation up and running by next year sometime. And so they're excited about their due diligence on the site, and hopefully we can lead them over to the highway where I think it would
Yeah.
not interfere with some overall comprehensive plans that we work out for the airport property.
Can I ask a question? Just what is the purpose of the substation? Is that just to help the overall electrical grid, or is that anything? unique
Correct.
or that's
Grid
gonna help us?
reliability.
It's just a thing. I mean, it's not like anything like, oh, Saugatuck's gonna have some solar capacity that we didn't have before. It's just part of the whole grid.
The intent is to help, the primary beneficiary will be the township, because the township is currently underserved by, that's why they always have these terrible power outages. Our friends that live out in the township are always losing power. So this would add to grid reliability. And I suspect it'd be more beneficial to the township than Saugatuck, to be honest. But, you know, if we ever do want to do community solar and take advantage of some of the grant opportunities that come around for community solar, to have basically the area be solar ready, because that substation is there as infrastructure, would be a huge step in that direction. Just, you know, to be able to, when we're pitching like grant opportunities and projects, to say, oh yeah, by the way, we got the substation 50 feet or, 100 feet from where the array could go. So.
Yeah, that's a good point. So consumers, I don't think has any interest in actually installing solar. They're like, this is peanuts, like, this is only 30 acres or whatever it is. Like, this is not our scale of solar that we'd be interested in. But we've been talking to them about just being solar ready. So can we get a conduit in? So if the city wanted to do solar and partner with the township and do community solar where people, businesses, residents could buy into it and then get a reduction on their electrical bill, that would be a possibility. And they seem very open to that at the moment, so. Okay,
Yeah.
all right. So that, again, the purpose of that slide was just to let you know that there's, some people that are willing to work with us to move some projects. Yeah.
But this is great, now when we have these things that come up quickly, we're already starting to get the collective knowledge of this body kind of fed into the process. So it's already, I think yielding positive results that we can say, yeah, we want to talk, let's talk about our big vision for this park or this.
Yeah. Ryan, where those plans that were for Mount Bald Head, where can I see those?
I think those were on the last presentation. So
Okay.
if you pull up the last
Okay.
packet from.
Do we have anything hard copy for me?
I can give you
Much-
something.
much better.
I'll hook you up.
Yeah, that would be great.
Sure.
thanks.
All right, so I think we have some slides from DPW, Mr. Chair, if it's appropriate time.
Absolutely, yeah. Please, Scott, are you gonna walk
Or
us through
some
this?
pictures or something.
Yeah. Good morning. Really fascinating information about the landfill site. I'm really happy to have you here. I learned quite a bit in just the brief time that you spoke. So it's always been kind of a mystery to me. I knew it existed, but didn't know how it came to be or whatnot. So thanks again for that. Yeah, I've just got a quick DPW update.
Great.
We've really, it's very brief. We've only been up to a handful of things since we met last month. The first one was that we've got all the Christmas decorations that we're responsible for installed in combination. Yep, thank you. In combination with winterizations, those have all been completed quite a few weeks ago. And then leaves. We've been primarily focused on that, trucking out hundreds of dump trucks worth of leaves and other organic material out of the city. And then as of last week, we needed those dump trucks freed up for leaf collection, but then we had to quickly transition into snow plowing. So it's kind of that delicate balance this time of year, and it was tough. This year was unique. I say that almost every year, but it was like the leaves just fell, and then all of a sudden there was snow on top of them, and people wondering why the leaves weren't gone. So that's pretty much what your public works staff has been up to for the past month. So not a whole lot of information, but those are pretty significant tasks for us to complete. So. And then one other update, at the last meeting, I did talk a little bit about the swing set out at the Oval Beach. I'm going to circle back to that once more. I hope once more. I thought we were about ready to hit the order button, and then it was expressed that maybe the color wasn't super fitting for that area. So some of the intent was to choose a different color scheme that would blend in more with the natural environment out there. So I did send a few slides of what the color scheme that we believe will be acceptable will be. And I just wanted to get that in front of you before we hit that order button. So this is pretty much what it's going to look like.
What color are those posts?
Beige.
A beige.
Beige.
Did
yes.
anyone,
Desert sand.
Yes.
was there,
Flat darker. Yeah.
was there any member of staff who may have selected beige as their first?
There may have been one. This was a combination of input from the people that are making the donation as well as staff input.
Somebody
So
donated this?
they're
yeah.
donating the majority of the financial contribution for this. Yeah,
Pretty cool.
Yeah.
it's really cool.
I was thinking about this, and we had talked about, maybe putting on more extension and more playground material. But what I like about this, I love the simplicity of it. And I like the fact that it isn't an in-your-face kind of playground equipment. I think it's really pretty.
Good. Thanks.
And I like the color now too.
Great. I believe as long as there is
Well,
no
you let it
serious
go.
objection with this group, I believe I'm going to hit the order button right after this meeting, and we're not looking back.
Is
it.
that the combination of swings? You're gonna have like small, medium and large?
Got it, mister.
That's not, yeah, yes, it is. So we have the, I have to remember my terminology for playground jargon, but we have the regular belt seats, very traditional ones. And then next to that, we have the zero gravity swings
Yes.
for, adults and young children. And then we have expression swings next to that, which has kind of a harness that holds the occupant in place.
It's ADA.
It's
I
ADA.
think we need another section of regular swings. That would just be my call.
That would be more like the Scoopy ones.
This-
Those are
this-
regular ones, no, Keith.
Well, no, the Scoopy ones. you
Scoopy
know?
ones, yeah. Oh, you're saying more of the Scoopy
The
ones.
slings, you're talking about the
More-
slings,
More the young adult type.
the slings, right?
Young adult.
Have you ever done the middle?
How many
We can
times-
always make those modifications later down the road.
Well, why don't we start with this? And like, to your point, if suddenly like the zero gravity or the ADA, more ADA acceptable ones are not getting used, we
Right.
revisit.
Yeah.
Certainly can.
They
And I do
they
wanna-
do get used though.
Okay,
Yeah,
yeah,
they
I
do.
think so too.
ADA ones definitely do get used.
Yeah.
And I
I
think
kind of
Kelly,
agree with-
last time you kind of mentioned a good idea of,
Yeah.
could we add more to that space? And what I learned through our engineer and also from the playground company is that we don't have as much real estate out there as what I thought, because there are parameter requirements for what you can place items around the swing set. So for this one, we have to keep basically a 49-foot, 7-inch length and then a 31-foot width to be able to place it out there. And that'll fill up that space it'll fill it up. We can't add a whole lot more.
Where's it
No,
going?
thank you for checking on that, because
Yeah.
people will ask,
Yeah,
now that there's
definitely.
something new,
Where
they'll say,
it
why
is.
didn't they
Where
add
the old
more?
one
Well, we
That's
want
fine.
to, add more, but
Thank you.
Picture.
Yeah, there's the old ones there right now by the concession. Yeah.
Hmm.
Right by
There's
where you
a,
can
like,
look.
it's all the old swing sets out there.
Yeah. Oh, I never paid attention to it.
I think,
You don't have kids.
So now
I think
suddenly
the
you wanna
consensus is
swing?
go
So-
for it.
yeah, I'm really glad to hear that. I'm not asking any more
I think
questions about it.
the
We're just ordering
consensus
it.
I love it.
is go for it.
Yeah, so yeah, with the
If they don't get
financial,
used, then we change them out.
exactly,
Yeah.
yeah.
Push the
It's a good
button.
idea.
And we'll do the installation ourselves. DPW will do
Exactly.
it before
Wonderful.
spring.
Yeah,
So,
there would be one or two more swings would be kind of nice too, but
yeah.
if we don't use the ones, we can change out.
Very cool.
Yeah.
And then I did, just for what kind of a wild card. I did add a couple more slides. I did get a couple of playground renderings from St. Clair Recreation.
Oh, wonderful.
Just to get them in front of you. Not that it has to be discussed, but here's a couple of options that we've already had drawn up.
Pow.
Yeah.
Colors can always be changed.
I like it. That seems bad. It's like,
But, but there are a couple aspects.
No, here, Village Square Park.
Oh.
I suspect, just a prediction, I predict a number of our constituents will be heavily oriented toward the more subdued color scheme. It's just my
Is this the
my
replacement?
Just to get it in front of you,
It's
that's
got a
all.
lot of repair work to it.
Yeah, so to be clear, this is
Yeah.
Village Square Park. Just looking at some
It's so
ideas.
pretty, though. Gee.
Yeah, I think we mentioned at the last meeting that the existing playground material is not very safe at the moment. We need to put a hurry on getting this replaced. So as we get into study groups, which will be on the agenda,
Okay.
we can share this information with the study group, and then they can do their own research and come back to the committee with suggestions.
Just one thought is the little stained glass or whatever they are panels, they're almost like artist palettes.
They're really pretty.
They're what?
Are they like glass? Is that what they are?
Yeah, children.
I would imagine
play
not,
with
probably
glass.
plexiglass, yeah. Yeah.
Class.
I'm
Bunch of-
noticing a lot
bunch of
of,
charts.
Stained
noticing a
glass?
lot of squash.
And you can chew on it.
Which is fine, but we want to be sure that there's things there to develop arm strength and things like that, so climbing and
And there's the swing
those kind of
set.
things.
And I've had a
Here's
request
this-
for my
look at the
granddaughter
swing
for a
set. Look at
seesaw.
that.
It's hard to almost ignore the
Okay,
color
all right.
scheme for this. That's just a detail that can
Your
be.
idea, yeah.
But what is interesting about it is that, we already have an existing swing set, and then we also have a mound kind of from the sidewalk on Butler Street that plays as kind of a natural ramp. And some of these renderings incorporate that ramp, which is a detail that I would imagine this group would discuss if we're leveling that out or if we're trying to incorporate that mound. That would all be up for discussion, but food for
And-
thought, here it is.
And there'll be a opportunity for a more tighter group to really
Yeah.
delve deeply in this. And we're going to get to that, I think, shortly in terms of kind of subcommittee assignments or work group assignments. So.
Yeah, you want the other.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, I actually, I sent a couple photos. I didn't actually, yeah, there was another one that kind of showed the mound that I was talking about a little bit better. And the colors are a little bit less McDonald's play place type. So.
Yeah.
But yeah, that's the one. So that kind of incorporates that mound.
Oh,
Yeah,
sure.
that's more
Yeah.
reminiscent of what's
What's
there.
Yeah,
there,
exactly.
Yeah. it
Yeah.
is.
So, all right, well,
Okay.
thank you.
So this is slated for this year.
We'd like to get this done this spring.
In the spring, ready for summer season. Yeah.
So what's our deadline?
Spring.
No, I mean, what's the deadline?
For
What's-
ASAP.
Go back in time. So installation, ordering, decision-making.
So yeah, decision-making probably,
That's gotta be pretty, ordering's gonna take a while, so.
All right, so
yeah.
Yeah, we'll talk about that when we get into your study group.
Right.
Okay, well, yeah,
Study
yeah,
groups.
we'll go there then.
Thanks.
Scott, good job with the
Thank-
leaves and the
Yeah.
snow and
Yeah, thank you, Scott.
holiday
and team.
decorations.
Cody, thanks,
And
guys.
Cody,
Yes.
thank you.
All right, that takes us, I think, to item B, creation of study groups for
Yeah.
priority projects. Over to you, sir.
Let's have some fun, right? So we broke up the projects into our major and priority projects. And now we need to put some people onto our study groups. And I'll talk, can you go to the next slide, RC, for me, please? I'll just talk about what a study group is after talking with the attorney. I don't know. So study groups, we'll put some people together, and they don't actually all have to be committee members. We'll talk about that a little bit. But you, as a study group, can't deliberate or actually make any decisions, which sounds amazing, right? They can only study and gather facts. And then you bring it's fact gathering, and then you bring it back to committee, and then you deliberate and then make decisions, and then that goes to council. So it's kind of a Open Meetings Act rule or law. The whole point being is that the Open Meetings Act or the Sunshine Act tries to deter people making decisions outside of open meetings that then get pushed into council. And so we have to be very careful with it. It's a law. And so when we put these groups together, you all will do research, you'll gather facts, and then again, you'll come to this committee. And then you can deliberate as a committee, as a whole, on your recommendation, which then goes to city council. So I don't want to, not to scare you, but it's a fact gathering group.
But I mean, is one of the benefits under this structure of a study group is that
Yes.
you can bring in people that are, not appointed, not even necessarily city residents that might have a certain expertise. For example, I think, when we start to talk with some of our colleagues in other communities around trails or around community rec, suddenly I think the study group allows us to sort of tap that type of expertise and that type of view without running into some of the issues that you're outlining, right?
Correct. Yeah, I think we all know the brain trust in Saugatuck is very strong. And so, we are going about it this way with the study group. Again, not making a recommendation to this committee, just doing the fact finding will allow to bring all of our brain trust into this decision-making process. And we'll talk about, I'll just give you an example, like the Blue Star Trail, when we do the multimodal path. There are people that are not on this committee, Friends of the Blue Star Trail, that have been working on this for a decade plus. And so it would be very wise to bring them in to do some fact finding and present some information to this committee as a small example. So should we get into like
Please.
the groups?
Yeah, go for
Can
it.
you go back to the previous slide, RC, and I'll actually get on this whiteboard?
And hopefully some of the thinking won't come as a surprise, because we did try to take notes at the last meeting and engage where the various committee members' passions lied or expertise lied. So, but obviously this is an open discussion. So if anybody feels differently or has a suggestion, we're all ears.
Okay, so let's just, take it one at a time, right?
Yeah.
Paper property. So Scott, Dean and I have talked about this.
Yeah.
Full disclosure. We have some people that we think that would be good and or have demonstrated interest.
Yeah. And one of the first people that comes to mind is you, Kelly.
Yes.
Because of the work you're doing with community rec and the opportunity there. And we believe there's also opportunities for collaboration with Saugatuck Public Schools. We think a cross-country trail could be something that could be done fairly quickly, particularly with the horsepower that, like the Bowers, if you will, bring to the table, So we were thinking Kelly, Glenna, we were thinking of you, I believe, because of your work with John Vanderbeek and the trails folks. And did we also select a member of staff, just given the broad range of opportunities there?
Staff would, on that point, so staff's gonna work side by side with on all of these projects, right? We're gonna send you our initial information that we have, all the data that we have to the work group. So that's a given. Staff is gonna be working with all of these separate groups. To help them as a resource. Let's see, and then we had Scott.
I think you had me on that just because, once again, it touches potentially so many different things that the city is identifying as strategic priorities. So, yeah.
We also had Vanderbeek.
Yeah.
Seems appropriate, right?
Yeah, I think once again, this is the beauty of it being a study group is we can bring in people that are in the township or aren't elected to office or assigned to committees to help make sure that we do this in a holistic fashion, because that's smack dab in the middle of the township. Yeah.
Ed Bauer.
Yeah.
You basically have people on here who want to be, not necessarily save a portion of it, but just what it seems to me is put trails throughout the entire thing. Which I'm not in favor of.
No, I think what most people have come to the conclusion is that the perimeter of it, the part that it's almost like a U shape, that ties into sort of the existing trail, could create a loop. I think obviously we need a cross-country loop.
We
But
should do a field trip.
Oh, for sure. I was gonna suggest we do that once hunting season concludes. Just a side story, we won't even go into. We had an encounter with some hunters on the consumer strip and it got a bit contentious, but that's
Yeah, that's a good
that's
idea.
for another time.
That was just recently.
Yeah.
Yes.
Don't get Scott Herbert
Scott, look at Scott smiling.
He's boiling back there.
Scott did not
Okay,
like finding hunters on his landfill. No,
And then township, Daniel DeFranco. probably
Yeah.
Yeah,
did a lot of
yeah,
choice.
yeah.
Anyone else on this group? I mean, that's pretty. That's spotting ones already.
Who's Bauer?
Mr. or Mrs.
Bauer.
Bauer of the cross-country
Oh,
coaches.
oh,
Yeah,
Yep. yep.
yeah.
Rick, isn't Rick working with John? That whole, is that John Vanderbeek?
That's
that we're
John
talking about?
Vanderbeek.
Yeah,
It-
about
that's-
creating something?
That's entirely possible. That's entirely possible that they're doing that.
It
because-
seems like, I thought that they were.
Yeah, they
Yeah.
talk and they,
Yeah.
he's not officially on the Riverwood Council, but.
Yeah,
they talk, yeah.
Does like to talk cross-country though.
All right, Blue Star Trail.
Okay.
I mean, Nancy,
Right.
yeah.
Who is a member, I think we mentioned this at a previous meeting, she's a member of the Blue
Yes,
Star- Friends of the Blue Star Trail Group.
Yes.
Keith, we had you possibly having interest? No? Sorry. We'll never.
We'll hold
Make
his,
that mistake.
we'll hold
again.
his horsepower back for
Um,
something.
Holly Leo.
Yeah, I think for continuity, it'll be important for Holly to stay very involved. if
Yeah,
we
she's
see
pretty.
this through.
she's good.
Yes. Yeah.
Our Friends of the Blue Star, another friend.
I thought possibly Richard.
Richard Donovan, yeah.
Yeah.
Do these people know they're part of this? Or are we just throwing their names down?
They're gonna be,
Richard does.
they're gonna be invited.
Okay, they're gonna be invited. Got it.
I did talk to Nancy and
Okay.
Richard the other.
We're gonna conduct some drive,
Yeah.
we're gonna conduct some
Some
drive-bys and
math, some
abduct them. They'll be bundled into a DPW
You
van
never
and
know
never
in
seen
this
again.
town.
Oh, that's fun. Let's see. Township rep. I mean, that might, we'll let Daniel decide, right? I'll just put Daniel, a township rep.
And frankly, I think we did discuss one of our counterparts in Douglas to try to harmonize.
I think that's a good idea.
Where the paths come together, because, you know, for me, I'm very excited for the master or long route, but really excites me is people able to safely move between Saugatuck and Douglas, you know, without having to use a car.
And that was my initial motivation for actually even getting on the board. I want to be able to go to the library and the grocery store
Yeah.
and not feel like I'm taking my life in my hands.
Exactly.
You come down on Park Street.
Hey,
then.
Jerry Donovan.
The mayor?
Yeah.
Yeah, I don't see why not.
He's been involved.
Yeah.
He might say no.
Whoever's been most passionate on the Douglas Council, I think will be huge. Because then you've got council to council contact with Holly and whomever. Yeah.
All right, now. Moving on. Park Street. Ooh. Good luck.
There's
anyone
one
on
person
this
that's
one.
absolutely critical to the Park Street study group. Ruth.
Right.
Ruth.
Most hated hill over there. I'm not living on it, so.
Scott, you had,
I'm
Demonstrate some
still willing
interest.
to help because it's, once again, there's a lot of moving parts.
Yeah.
some other names that were mentioned, at least between Scott Dean and I, Jane Underwood.
I kind of connected with some people that would be a
Oh.
little interested.
Okay, well, yeah.
Jane is one of them, of
Oh,
course.
perfect. And yeah, that's.
Yeah, so I got, there's a whole little kind of group that has already formed, so.
Well, yeah, give us some ideas on who you'd like, because these aren't cast in stone and,
No.
and people could be found or identified as things move forward. So this isn't
Yeah.
like, these aren't exclusive clubs.
Exactly, so I kind of sent out a little email to the residents there
Yeah,
and kind of would like to wait till I hear a little bit more from them to put them on. I know Jane is definitely interested in that.
The other name that we have listed is Dave Blanford.
Oh, yeah, he lives across from me.
Yeah.
Yeah.
He seemed to have some.
He
interest.
did?
I don't know how this thing came up.
I think Scott, you identified him as
Did
somebody
you?
that's been active
Ah,
in
yeah.
Park Street
That
discussions.
was just, I've not talked to Dave. I have no idea if he's interested whatsoever.
We have an email out to him. He hasn't reached out
Yeah.
yet, but he is.
But I thought there might be a kind of a unique opportunity there because, you know, a lot of what the comments that we've heard over the years are, you know, some residents, you know, if you're expanding walking space on Park Street, not all residents will be giving something up. And so I thought it would be more diverse of a group if you could get a representative of maybe somebody who would be giving up some of their space to join that group.
Yeah, because he lives right across, semi-across from me, and we'd all be giving up on that, in that area. So, yeah, I've got it reached out to him, so hopefully he'd be part of that, or Deb, his
Idea.
wife, one of the two.
Right.
Yeah,
Yeah, so, you know, maybe somebody who's not 100% supportive of this
Right.
concept of expanding the roadway. So healthy discussion within the focus group.
I'm almost thinking that group that has One Adventure, someone, a representative from them, they take they've got a lot of activity happening on that site.
It's not a bad idea. I don't know who they are.
I do know who they
Oh, okay.
are. I just can't think of their names.
And
I'm
once
just-
again, I think, you know, this is how when we did the radar station, you know, people just kind of showed up based on their interest and
And that's kind of.
and they had something to offer, and some people kind of fell off the group because it just, you know, it wasn't what they thought it was gonna be.
Right.
So I think, once again, that's sort of the advantage of
Just
doing it this
ideas,
study
yeah.
group way.
Yep. right.
Did you have John Moxie playing in?
Yeah, engineer, and that's kind of understood, like, we're gonna be
Understood,
working, like, sorry,
Yeah,
sorry,
yeah.
I shouldn't be so, yeah,
Right.
rude. Staff and engineering, we're gonna work with all these focus groups.
Yeah.
Right.
So they don't need to be specifically listed. You also mentioned Paul Hua. JK. All right, invasive species, moving on.
Keith is nodded approvingly.
Pete? No way.
Yes,
That includes humans,
It sure does.
rentals.
And Nancy, I think
For
Nancy,
sure.
you had an interest of the Peterson Preserve is complicated, and
Yes.
Pete.
we won't even talk about the
Ryan,
wood chewing rodent problem.
I'm sorry, can you go back up to Park Street? There was, put Ann
No,
Broker
let's not talk
down.
about
I'm
that.
sorry, Mr. Chair.
Sorry, excuse me.
It's okay, no worries.
I'm back on Park Street. Can you add the one more Ann Broker?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, she wants to do. Sorry, you want to continue.
Invasive species, Keith, Nancy, Allegan County, they've been working, so we would want to bring one of their reps. Now that they have some money to spend on conservation and treating invasive species, so they have a new talented group that at the county, so we'd want to bring one of those reps in. I was gonna say ODC, but I don't know, maybe too early. I think we should work with our
Mhm.
public entity before we bring
Okay.
them.
Yeah.
But eventually, I think they're gonna get involved in some of this stuff. All right, playground, Village Square.
Yes, and Glenna, you expressed an interest in
Yep.
in the playground.
Want to do / Village Square.
Yeah.
I even think I have a note. Yeah, I do. Beacon is listed under Village Square and Playground. The city council's been thinking about, which I'm pretty sure they would be motivated to do, to name the athletic area of the Village Square, so pickleball courts, basketball courts, in Beacon's honor of serving for 41 years on the city council, and some other things may come of that, but so
Yeah.
there's some thoughts going on about that, Mr. Dean, I don't know if you have anything to add to that.
No, I think, in recognition of not only Mark's 41 years of service to the community, but also his tremendous service to our schools and in support of athletics. We thought, and his wife thought, it would be much more fitting than a street name, for example, would name a park after him, or, a playground. So,
Named the high school after,
well, you're right, the field probably. Yeah,
well, the family donated.
yeah, I know.
That's a great idea, though.
So yeah, we do want to recognize Mark in some way, shape or form. So.
Statue of him.
Well, yeah. The kids can
Climb on there, no
I think his
sharp
uncle-
points,
I think
please.
his uncle donated all the land at the high school.
Oh, I know.
No.
I think the high school, well, they made him the grand marshal, didn't they? But I think they may do something as well. I don't know for a
Yeah.
fact, but
Rename Elizabeth.
so,
Exactly.
so Glenna on the clipboard for
Elizabeth.
sure. Back and Ruth, Kelly, did you guys have an interest?
I have some interest in this.
Kelly, I thought you did, Kelly, and I thought Ruth, you were sort of interested from a aesthetics standpoint.
I would help aesthetically, yeah. I mean, I know how everything works, but you guys can too.
Landscape, we could really. use
Yeah,
that.
I can.
Also mentioned was Birdie Holly. to get her- 'cause
Oh,
she's just
Verdi,
so-
yeah, that's
Yeah,
right.
the other one would be Anna
Name a
Craig, who
street
did
after her.
Douglas Park projects.
Was it?
Anna Craig. So she's the mastermind behind the Douglas Park projects. So
Got it.
Schultz
Anna?
Park and Berry Field.
Oh, sure. That's a
So
great
she would
idea.
be Amazing, because she's the one that has done all the builds and picking out
It's a great
all of
idea.
it.
Cool, great. All right, that's gonna be a fun one. Malt Baldhead.
Oh, we missed Mount Walden, yeah.
The big one.
A lot of stuff.
It
I
is a
know
lot
it
of
is.
stuff.
I want to put myself in the airport property.
Oh, you want the airport property?
I think it needs a little balance. over
I think
there.
it does too.
Okay.
Yeah, the other one for airport property would be Scott Kajic,
Yes.
who's the rec director.
We need a naturalist or two up on that property.
Okay, we'll put you up on airport, yeah. And we will do a field trip. You'll be amazed.
I tried to find it the other day. I drove
Oh,
out there.
okay, no, it's mind blowing.
It's really difficult.
I don't know if these two dudes overlap, Bauer and Scott K, right? They're kind of.
I don't think so at all.
No.
Because Scott would be more interested in the multiplex, the sports field versus the cross country. You know?
Yeah, leave them on it. And
Yeah.
once again, these
You may
are,
say no.
these are, right now, these are like sort of dream teams that these dream teams may change, Somebody might say, I don't have time. Somebody might say, no, I really want to,
Ruth, I put you under Malt Baldhead, is that?
Yeah, it's all right.
All right, you can put me on that too.
All right.
Hey, Keith.
I need the exercise.
Isn't there a Friends of Mount Baldhead group or something that's,
Yeah, it's a hiking, isn't it the hiking group?
is it the hiking group? We should probably
We-
ask.
We've got Friends of the Radar Station, which
And then
is,
that should, yeah,
we've got that. That's so like, Russ Gardner.
yeah, no, that's what I'm
active in
thinking,
that.
yeah,
I don't put you on this, and Scott as a rep.
Okay,
yeah,
fine.
that's a good one.
And then, is there a hiking, whatever, hiking group?
Hiking group and the radar group.
Actually,
Isn't that called the, is it called the radar?
It's a historical group, aren't they?
Frank
Oh,
Lamb.
there's a hiking group too.
Yeah, see, and I don't know, I'm not thinking.
He kind of organizes the hiking group. Frank
is the
Lamb.
is the hiking group.
Oh, does Frank do that?
Well,
I
he
know
did
he's
in the
on that,
past.
you're right, yeah.
I don't
And
know
and
about-
also Sally Winters, yeah,
Okay.
yeah, she's from the Historical Society.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm just gonna put historical.
Yeah,
That's
do
a good
that, 'cause
point.
that's that whole group right there.
Right. That's a
And,
good point.
and Glenna, do you think you or John, given all the trails around there, should have some?
Didn't John do some plantings on that a couple of years ago?
Yeah, he's done some plantings and a lot of trails. So John could either do it or Chris Clark.
Okay, I don't know, Chris.
He's from our Riverwood Council. He knows a lot about that. I think Chris would be good and he might do it.
Can I just put Riverwood and then
Yeah.
they can decide? All right.
Any last minute tips on the study groups on like how they should operate? Can they be fairly informal, like
Very
coffee,
informal.
coffee clutch kind of thing, as opposed to,
Absolutely.
they don't have to take meeting minutes or anything like that?
As long as we keep it as a study group, which was my earlier point. The important thing is you do not come into this committee with recommendations like, we've studied this, we figured it out, this is what we recommend. Don't do that. Just say, we've studied this, and here's our thoughts. And then as a group, you can collab on what the ultimate recommendation will be to city council. So don't come in with any conclusions or recommendations.
Can you have like options? Like we've looked at it and we say, here's option 1, 2, and 3.
Yeah.
And pros and cons?
Yeah.
That's, yes.
Okay.
Yes. Yes, you can.
And that's sort of, the only example I have is the work that Russ Gardner and I did on the radar station. And, basically, we would meet as needed, but initially it was like once a week, the work group would meet. And we basically kind of started like, what's like the kind of short, medium, long-term things. And, in the short term, we said, we just need to secure the site. We need to secure it and kind of clean it up. So we made our top job just sort of, getting volunteers together with Ryan and Scott's blessing. We got a key, we got blessing to start, cutting back stuff. We got blessing to do painting. So it was a lot of volunteer work, but we wanted to make sure we were keeping staff informed of what we were doing. And then we made some recommendations on, let's not tear it down. Let's save it. And then that was the recommendation that came forward to council, because at one point we had like $60,000 dedicated to tearing it down, which never would have happened.
Yeah, so the difference is like
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah.
with Scott Dean's, what he was just explaining is that was like an outside entity that was not really associated with the city in any way.
Yeah.
And there's a couple of like discussion points on that. Some people would say, wow, that operates much more efficiently. They just kind of do their thing and they get things done. And then the counter discussion would be like, well, that wasn't very transparent. And where did like the citizens get to have input on that process? And so the process that we're using is much more transparent. Citizens have a chance to, when you get to, making your presentations to committee, then, that's where all these discussions will be had. That's where we'll invite the public to, have their input. And then the ultimate recommendation will go to city council. So a couple of ways you can do this. The way that Scott was describing, again, it's just kind of an outside organization, great ideas, lots of ambition. They did their thing, very efficient, got a lot of work done. But, in the background, there's a lot of people chirping about like, well, like, what are they doing? And like, how come we didn't get invited to their meeting or what have you? Again, this process, everyone can show up at our committee meetings, have their say, have their input. And then that way you're just building it up from the ground. And then everyone had an opportunity to have their input, and then ultimately a recommendation to city council. And then when city council votes on it, all of this should have been vetted and lots of options for input along the way.
Presumably, depending on what these, it will vary for each study group, but, one study group might come to the point where they do have a number of options, and they might want to have something that's the equivalent of like a poster session for the community. And then we can promote it and say, please, the study group folks will be available up here on this day, and you can come and look at some renderings of the 3 playground, for example, things that we're promoting, and please, we'd love your feedback, and we could do things like that as well. Just to,
for sure.
Once again, I think there's a lot of opportunity here to really engage with the community and let people, to Ryan's point, feel like they've got some say in the process, or at least they're not surprised when things happen, so.
It's so important. And
So can we like put these, are they on like the website or something, that if someone is truly interested, that they could contact someone, like contact you, Scott, and then you can get them?
Yeah.
I mean,
They can
do you think, if people are really interested, that at least we have.
Do we have a webpage?
you do.
Can we-
You
yeah, I
you
mean-
are somebody, man.
No, I want. All right, I'm just curious in
Yeah, we
relation to
do.
what Ruth is
No.
saying, so we could actually put, if you want input, contact, blah, blah,
Yeah,
blah.
exactly. So
You
there's a
want-
head person of
Okay.
each of these committees, that person can connect with.
So, yeah, we want to be really careful about how we use our terminology. So we don't call them committees. These are study groups.
Study groups.
Yeah,
Okay.
and what we would do as city staff is we post our minutes and we would direct people that are interested in getting in contact with anyone to our minutes, and then and it depends on who's comfortable with having their phone number posted or who the point of contact's gonna be.
Okay.
But as we get these study groups up and running,
For example,
We are.
we could create a new box for study groups
Yeah.
with the membership. Maybe a short blurb on what they're looking at. And I do think it'd be wise for each study group to sort of put sort of.
My
a-
phone number's wrong, by the way.
Oh, is your phone wrong? Okay.
how you do that on purpose.
It-
I
it
know.
would- it would-
I did do that on purpose.
It would probably be wise for each study group to name a. what do you want?
Liaison, like
A
a,
liaison or a chair, what, I don't know
Yeah.
what the proper
Not a
term is.
chair, but a
I
liaison.
mean, typically if somebody's not sort of picked as the leader, things don't move as quickly.
it would be, the right thing to do would be one of the members of the committee that's on the study group
Yeah,
as the liaison.
sure.
Makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
okay.
And then, so next steps would be, I will send you information that we have already within the city's files for each of these projects, like what we've done, old files. The city is really good at doing studies and then shelving them, and then doing them 5 years later, and then shelving those, and then never doing anything. But I will send you all the data and information, and then kind of just give you like a brief outline of like what the next steps will be. And as far as kind of timelines, as I had mentioned, some of these projects are going to move, yeah, a little faster than others. So
Great.
Being kind of in line with Keith, that having done work plans and that kind of thing, if two of these projects had priorities for next spring, Mount Bald Head and the playground. So,
And the airport.
and
And-
possibly the airport with
Yeah.
consumers sniffing around.
Yeah.
yeah, so, if those are gonna happen, I guess they really need to get started. And part of it is funding though, is there, I know that I heard somewhere that there might be a donor for the playground piece, or is that not true?
I had not heard that. Scott Herbert, have you heard that? That would be
Oh,
great.
want to hear that.
How much
Is that you?
What's the ballpark on the playground equipment?
So the renderings that I got, it doesn't have to be, but I was looking somewhere between the 80 and 120 range. So it depends on how elaborate the project is.
That includes the landscaping and all of it?
That would be just. the-
Probably not,
Just-
yeah.
Okay. And I'm recalling that Lisa was here last time and talked about they have some money and pretty much offered that up. I mean, I think in any of that seems like a low hanging fruit.
Who's
And then
these?
Mice. From the CVBs.
The visitor
Business
bureau.
Bureau.
Low hanging fruit, and it could move more quickly instead of a whole large grant process or something. So I don't know how we decide, what you approach her with, because I know there's other projects and how quickly that could happen. That's my thought.
Yeah, no, those are good observations.
Good. Did we cover next steps then? Are we?
When would we set a visit for the airport property? And should the whole group come so that everybody, when we come back to discuss, has seen the property and has
Yeah.
some understanding of, the-
Yeah, I mean,
Can
I'm
relate
very
to it.
interested. I just don't want to overstretch
Yeah.
myself, so I'm
Yes.
happy to not be on the committee, but I'm interested.
just to see.
I mean,
'Cause I
yeah.
think we need to do that
Yeah.
soon.
I agree.
Yeah.
Since that property is not very familiar to everyone, I think one of our next committee meetings, if you're willing to stomp out there in the snow,
For sure.
Yeah.
we'd schedule a field trip then.
Is that the fourth Tuesday?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. fourth
What
Tuesday.
does that land on? What is the date?
I don't know, but it sounds close to Christmas.
Yeah. it is.
And yeah, I mean, those dates are.
No, that's fine.
27th.
And that's fine. yeah.
December.
That's the fourth okay.
Tuesday.
Got it.
December
We
27th.
should do that then. That
I'm-
sounds,
December what?
I can do,
December 27th.
I think I can do December 27th.
uh-huh.
I think I can do December 27th.
I think I have a doctor's appointment.
Oh,
And we would go to the airport with this one?
basically, apparently we can meet outside of City Hall.
Correct.
We just have to, I guess, announce it,
Advertise it,
advertise it.
the meeting location, just in case any members of the public want to show up
Yeah.
and follow us around.
Yeah, so I'm up for that.
So you want to do the airport field trip the same day as our meeting?
Yeah,
That is our
It will be our
meeting.
meeting.
That is our meeting.
You'll walk into it.
yeah, so you can do it both. We could meet here first, right? And
Is
take
it
care
rain now, rain or shine?
of snow or
Because
shine.
it's gonna be crappy weather, I guarantee.
Okay, thanks.
We
All
can-
right, rain or shine.
Rain or shine.
I say no matter what. I mean,
I
we-
like your idea though, meet here, take care of any business that we need to kind of be around the table for, and then, make it a bit abbreviated and have the deep dive at the airport on the 27th. I like it.
I do too.
Okay. Very cool. And we'll visit that.
Scott's nodding his
Airport
head. He
and
has the
then-
keys to get through the gate. He's nodding his head in approval.
Put the gate at the airport.
Coolest
Come on,
guy
it's
in the
four-
room.
it's 100 it's so many acres.
You must go through the gate.
Yes.
Not walk in the woods.
All right. So any last bits? I think we kind of went into reviewing next steps.
Yep.
So we're there. So I think unless anybody else has anything else on the work groups, the study groups, I should say. I think that takes us to our second public comment period of the meeting for anybody that would like to share public comments. I'll start it out with the room, 3 minutes. Please identify yourself at the mic. I don't see any takers. Oh, but I do have someone, we have Gary online. So Gary, please just state your name for the record and you have 3 minutes.
Yeah, Gary Medler, Vine Street, Saugatuck, Michigan. The color beige. We live in an art colony. This is for kids. There are so many colorful personalities in Saugatuck. You go to the beach, it's the pop of colors. So we should put a moratorium on the colors beige and white homes, but I just throw that out there. This is for the kids, not for people who paint everything beige and white. So whatever you do is fine. I think it's wonderful.
Thank you. Thank you for that, Gary.
Okay.
Great. I don't see any other hands raised in the public comment period. So I think that will close that out. That takes us to a member closing comments. And I will start with Glenna.
I feel anxious about moving forward if we are going to proceed and, have anything ready, especially for the playground. So who contacts the other maybes in the group?
That would be your city staff.
Okay, and then we could organize after that. But, okay, sounds good.
Does that help a little bit? Okay. Keith?
In relation to the landfill, I don't know if any of them are still alive, except for one, but Ron Wilkins used to dig out there like crazy.
Oh.
And I think he might still be in town. And there's a couple other guys I know, we used to go out there who have passed away subsequently. But he knows a lot about it. I mean, he knows a lot about what's out there.
Dig out
Just an
there?
FYI.
Thanks.
Mhm.
Good feedback.
So I'm just really interested to learn about the public-private partnerships. I think that could be really an exciting part of this. And I'm just ready to get started.
Excellent. Thanks.
I too have a little anxiety about the time frame of things. These are kind of big things that are happening in a short amount of time. So I guess we'll do our best and go from there.
Okay, I had a list. So the first was just on the committee or the study groups. What should our communication approach be? I mean, how much do we want to share what we're doing with, the public, I guess? Just a thought. I mean, I'm not expecting an answer, but I just thought we should be mindful,
Mhm.
that we're doing these groups, should this be published in the commercial record? I don't know. I'm just asking, just so we
On
don't,
our minutes though, right?
It's in the minutes, yes.
but just,
So the public interface, I mean, just, to keep it clean, is here at this committee level. So anyone can join any of our meetings. They know they will know these study groups are happening, and or they should. We could certainly write an article between Scott Dean and I.
Yeah, we could do that.
To explain a little bit about that process. But if anyone, just like these gentlemen that showed up today, and Mr. Medler's moratorium on beige and white.
I
They
guess I'm
could
just
show up
thinking
at
maybe
these
a
meetings.
heads up,
This is
to
the public,
people
this
that-
is the public interface.
Yeah,
At this
and-
committee
and-
level.
And thank you for that. I mean, and what I think what we did with the radar station is, we did sort of put the word out. We did like a little Facebook page for the friends. It was not exactly the same, but I think once again, I've always envisioned the members of this committee to be very much ambassadors and liaisons out of the community. So if any of you know of a person that's passionate about this or brings certain expertise, certainly, I think, see if we can bring them into the work group or the study group. And I think, the idea is for these to be very inclusive, because the beauty of this study group approach is we can be more inclusive. We don't have to have committee appointments and things of that nature, because the nature of the work is more recommendation or option oriented. So.
And our minutes are all online, correct?
Precisely.
Mhm.
Yes, they are.
right.
And I get an email.
Yeah. Yeah.
Saying that we have a committee meeting, and I've got, so that goes out to everybody who signs up for the email.
Yeah, that's what we did with the work with the radar station. We had a distro list. We used, we kept the city staff in the loop, but we also would communicate, me, Russ, Bob Sapita, John Kerr from history. We would just that's how we would keep in touch via email. We would also meet, but Yeah.
Because we are going to spend some money, it's important that transparency is there. And
yes.
how many people are on the city of Saugatuck's email list?
Hundreds, I think we're up to sorry, I don't know, I'm looking at 300, 300 or so, maybe 350, somewhere around there.
Whether they're residents or not, right?
Correct.
Okay.
Maybe even a little more than that, but yeah, somewhere around there, I think. It's a pretty healthy list.
Do you
Well, I
see-
just wanted to, just so we're mindful, of how do we communicate, be thoughtful.
I guess.
Good.
It seemed to me like when we first started, we talked about that there was a 5-year plan that we might need to be
Yeah, there is a
contributing
5-year
to.
plan.
And I haven't heard anything about that lately, so I just don't want to miss our opportunity to contribute to that.
Sure.
It seemed like that was something that had a short date on it. I don't remember for sure, so it's more of a question. And then I actually already brought this up with Scott as we walked in together, that I would think we should have goals, for what we want our town to be. And I don't think anybody would argue with a very walkable place. And I actually use walking as one of my primary forms of exercise. And whenever it snows, I notice how beautifully the streets are cleared and the sidewalks, while the snow gets removed, we don't put any salt or anything on them. And especially on the ones where the streets are busy, I tried to walk yesterday and it was just treacherous. And so I'm just wondering if we couldn't give more consideration to clearing the sidewalks that, I live up on the hill. I can walk on the street when I'm up there. I don't really care if the sidewalks are messy up there, but when I come, when I try to walk on Holland Street, or even when I see on Francis where the kids are walking to go, to school and back, it's terrible. And maybe is it the homeowners who are supposed to be responsible for clearing those sidewalks? And if so, do we need to do a better job of, trying to enforce that? So just putting that out there. And then lastly, there was an article in the Commercial Record this past issue about leave the leaves, I should say. And so just thought we ought to start thinking about that idea, as that's becoming a thing where you shouldn't rake all of your leaves. So Scott, you mentioned about how many leaves you had to pick up. And just to explore that concept, then I think maybe our invasive species subcommittee, or I mean,
We can
study
get into
group.
the normal. It's probably not the place for it, but we can get into the.
But,
no-
just
the
to think about
no
things
mow
like
May.
that, how
Yeah.
can we get more ecologically minded? And that's all.
Thanks, thanks. Great. I'll close up. I think a good meeting and I appreciate all of your patience as we sort of get the kinks out. We haven't really done it this way before, to my knowledge. But I do think it will work. We have seen it work with, once again, I'll go back to the radar station. So I think it will work. Also, as you know, we had an election. We've lost two very experienced council members. There's now a transition to me as a mayor, to Lauren Stanton as mayor pro tem. That is going to put a lot of stress on me in terms of my time. So the first thing I did when I was selected mayor last week was I told the rest of council that I wanted to, on Wednesday at our workshop, do a deeper dive into committee and board assignments. So we have the right people with the right bandwidth doing the right things. And I've already had individual meetings with several of the council members that remain and some of the newly elected council members. I think I'm going to probably need to hand this committee over to another member of council. And what I'm thinking is, and Helen Baldwin is on the line right now. Helen was part of our tour of Park Street with Mr. Medler and Jane and Ruth and some other folks. I'm seriously considering that, and I will talk with council on Wednesday about this, but I am strongly thinking of recommending Helen, who would bring another representative from the other side of the river to the committee, which I think would be beneficial, because I do believe that we haven't been paying as much attention as we could to our constituencies who have a wealth of parks and public works issues on that side of the river. So, and Helen also brings CPA background in municipal audit. We do have a fairly substantial budget in the parks dedicated to our parks. So I am going to have some other conversations with the rest of council about transitioning Helen to the chair role for parks. And I would urge all of you, if you haven't met Helen, to reach out to her. She's very accessible, and get a sense of kind of where her thinking is around parks and public works. But I have a lot of confidence in her, having worked with her on the council. And that doesn't mean I'm going to just completely eject myself from this. I would fully intend, if you'll have me, to engage wherever I can in the study groups or in any other capacity where I could be helpful, as just a member of the community or as mayor. But I am thinking of making that change. I didn't want to surprise any of you with it. So that's something that we'll be discussing with my colleagues at the council tomorrow. So yeah, with that, I'll entertain a motion to adjourn.
Motion.
Motion Cherick, second Roche. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Adjourn.
Good job, Mr. Chair. Thank you.
Great job.
Smooth, and now you're leaving.